Alright guys, today I'm going to show you how I make my vegan hamburger helper. So this is a one pot recipe, so you're going to want to you don't have to have a huge skillet like this, you can just use a big pot. But this is what I'm going to use, and I'm going to put a little bit of oil in the pan, probably about a tablespoon. This is one of my kids' favorites. I don't know if I said I'm using avocado oil. We're going to add in 1/3 cup of diced onion. I'm just using my frozen onion hack. Honestly, I would put in 1/2 cup, but my kids aren't a big fan of onion. And we went ahead and turned this on to a medium heat, and we're just going to cook these onions until they get some color on them. Alright, now that our onions are nice and fragrant, slightly translucent, we're going to add some vegan ground. So I'm using the Beyond avocado oil ground here. It's a 1 pound brick, and we're just going to smush that up in there, crumble it into the onions. Now you could use TVP for this. Obviously you're going to want to have a non-stick pan because this does have oil in the ground and it's not quite as flavorful, so you're going to want to add more seasoning, maybe liquid amino, soy sauce, stuff like that to make it taste more meaty. Alright, we're going to let this cook a little bit. I went ahead and peeled the garlic. We want at least 3 cloves of garlic. You can use more. I say measure garlic with your heart, but I don't want it to be too garlicky, so we're going to use 3 cloves. We're also going to want 2 tablespoons of tomato paste. I have the frozen cube that I've thawed. We're going to want 2 cups of plant milk and 2 cups of water. I'm using soy milk here. You're going to want some bouillon. So I'm actually out of my veggie bouillon. You could also use beef bouillon. I'm actually going to use this Italian herb bouillon today. I think it'll be really nice in that. We're going to use 2 teaspoons at least. I might add more, but we're going to start with 2. So you can usually use whatever pasta you'd like. You just want to make sure. So this is a 14.5 ounce. A 14 ounce, you know, a pound of pasta would be fine too. You just might have to adjust the liquid ratios. I'm going with the Berea Protein Plus elbows for this. Alright, I went ahead and used my garlic press to crush in the 3 cloves of garlic. Now we're going to go ahead and add in our tomato paste. And we're really trying to wake up that tomato paste, so we really want to cook that in there. That's why I made that little spot in the middle. And you want to go ahead and mix everything around in here. That stuff that's sticking on the bottom is going to deglaze when we add the liquid. That is all flavor. That's called the frond. So now we're going to add a teaspoon of garlic powder, a teaspoon of onion powder, a teaspoon of oregano, a 1/2 teaspoon of paprika, a 1/4 teaspoon turmeric, and an 1/8 teaspoon of cayenne pepper. Do not skip the cayenne. I know it sounds crazy, just trust me. And we're going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of celery salt. I'm going to add a 1/4 teaspoon of black pepper, but I'm sure I'm going to use more. That's just what we're starting with. And a 1/2 teaspoon salt. We're definitely going to add more. That's just what we're starting with. Alright, so all of our spices are in here now, and as you can see, it is getting kind of dark. So now we need to add in some liquid to deglaze this. So go ahead and take the milk and water mixture you have and just add some in here to help deglaze that pan. Go ahead and mix it around, get all that flavor. Ooh, steamy. Alright. Now we're going to add in 1/4 cup of nutritional yeast. Now we're going to put in all of our pasta. We really want to like flatten this out into a nice even layer here, because we're going to pour our liquid on top next. Alright, and like I said, we might need more liquid, but we're going to start with what we have. Yes, definitely more, because you want all of the noodles to be covered. Alright, so we're going to add another cup of milk and another cup of water. So another 2 cups of liquid into there. Alright, go ahead and mix it up in there. Make sure everything is well incorporated. Now we need to add our secret ingredient. First, I'm going to add the 2 teaspoons of that Italian herb bouillon. Like I said, you can use veggie bouillon if you've got it. That's what I normally use, or even a beef bouillon. So I've got another cup of plant milk, another cup of water. We are going to mix our magic cheese into this. Now there is instructions on the back of how to mix this, But because I am using this not in the way it's intended, I'm going to show you how I do it. So for 2 cups of liquid, we're going to add 1 cup of this powder. I know that sounds like a lot, but trust the process. This legitimately tastes just like the hamburger helper I grew up eating as a kid. And you're going to want to whisk this up pretty well before we add it to the mixture. It's going to be really clumpy. Just mix it until it's nice and smooth. So this is the vegan hack here for this recipe. That's pretty good. There's still a little bit of clumps, but I'm not too pressed about it. So there is cornstarch and stuff in here, and you probably could just make this yourself with like nutritional yeast, some other seasonings, and cornstarch. But this is my vegan hack to make this hamburger helper taste and feel the exact same as what I grew up with. So it looks like there's a lot of liquid in here right now. That's totally fine. Like I said, it has cornstarch and other thickeners in it, so it is going to thicken up. We just want to make sure there's enough liquid to cook that pasta all the way. So in total, we added about 8 cups of liquid all together. So now we're just going to let that simmer nice and low and slow. I mean, it's like a medium heat. So we're just going to let that simmer until it is cooked, and then we'll taste it and see if we need to add any more seasonings. As you can see, it is thickening up. The noodles are cooking. You're going to want to stir this pretty often. I wouldn't say you have to like frequently stir it, but you definitely do not want to leave it unattended because you might get some stickage. Alright, so once your noodles are nice and al dente, we're going to go ahead and turn off that heat and go ahead and taste it and see if it needs anything. And mine, as I predicted, needs more salt and pepper. So I'm going to go ahead and add another half a teaspoon of salt and a 1/4 teaspoon of pepper. And I think that's perfect. Personally, I would add more pepper and more salt, but since my kids are going to be eating this, I don't want to make it too salty or too peppery, and then just provide them more to add on themselves. But that's what we're looking at there, guys. Nice and thick, creamy looking. It looks just like the hamburger helper you grew up with that is not vegan, and this is the vegan version. Enjoy!